Hello my lovelies, and welcome back to Sundering Tarot, or if you're new here, hi, hello, and welcome. Today we are going to do a VR. This is for decks I would repurchase. I do believe the original content creator for this was Astro Lady Tarot. So if you're finding this for the first time, I'll back up and let you know what this tag is about. And for those of you that are familiar with it and maybe coming back to it because it's an older tag, consider it a refresher for you. So, assuming, some form of disaster struck, maybe your apartment flooded, maybe, aliens broke in, and the only thing they took out of all your belongings was your tarot and oracle collection, your deck collection, what decks would you go out and immediately repurchase? Alright. Well, I fully admit this tag does warrant more than mass markets. However, I'm only going to be showing you mass markets. Number one, price difference between mass market versus indie. Also, availability when it comes to mass market versus indie decks. Let's face it, I am not a millionaire, so I'm limited to sourcing mass markets for what I would have to replace if somebody, ruined all of my decks that I own, which is quite a few, and had to start replacing them. So let's go ahead and we're gonna jump right in here for decks that I would definitely want to repurchase. I've got like 7 of them or so. The first one right here is the Mermaid Tarot by Lisa Robertson. This deck is my water element deck. This is my comfort zone. This is quite literally me. As a water sign, this is right where I want to be, right where I fit in. This is my element. Like I said, definitely my comfort zone. And the fact that this deck, with its strength being what it is, and I won't tell you that, you'll have to wait till I put it on one of my polls for a deck of the month poll for my deck strength versus weakness series, and I will end up featuring it at some point. No spoilers. But given the fact that this has a really great deck strength, I utilize it very well in my collection. It's a heavy hitter. I would have no choice but to really try and find another copy of this particular deck. I would want another copy. Hands down, another copy. And considering, I had a fascination with mermaids when I was a child, so this is kind of like a must, a no-brainer of, we must keep this. When it comes to ocean-themed tarot decks, this is definitely one of those that is high on my list. Even between oracles, this deck is high on my list. Alright. Second deck I would replace, and most of you are going to recognize this one just simply by the backings. This is Chris Ann's Lightseers Tarot. Of course, this was an indie deck before it got published mass market through Hay House. I have never personally owned the indie deck. However, this was one of those decks that I watched other readers read with it. I got to know it. I wasn't into modern decks at all. But seeing a mass market version being used and read with, I couldn't let this deck go. I ended up bringing it in my collection, and I love it. It's fantastic. It's a great deck. If I remember right, I featured this for the month of August, deck of the month for my deck strength versus weakness series. This deck has 3 strengths. It's really awesome. And the artwork, I love it. I'm usually not all that drawn to bright, colorful decks. This is bright without being overdone. When it comes to me and my aesthetic, I do love a lot of the symbology, the approach to it. And there's little Easter eggs throughout the entire deck that you wouldn't think of. But because it has 3 strengths, as I mentioned in my deck strength versus weakness series, this is the most pairable deck I have in my entire collection. I think with anti-pairs for tarot, at the tarot decks I had in my collection at the time of filming, I think there was only 4 that did not pair with this deck. This deck is highly versatile. Part of that is because it has 3 strengths. So I would definitely I miss this one. And now they've got it in a tin, which I also do own. The only version of this deck I don't own is the indie version. I missed the first version, which is fine. But this one would definitely have to be in my collection. There's no saying no to that deck at all. And you know what? Let's go right over to an oracle. Let's show you more than just tarot. Oracle deck I would automatically replace. A lot of you will recognize this particular oracle as well. This is the Wisdom of the Oracle by baron-reid, very famous backings. This is another one I consistently watched other readers read with it for quite some time, just to kind of somewhat get to know it. And I was like, oh yeah, that might be interesting, and I put it on a wish list, and it sat there for the longest time until I got a nudge from my ancestors going, hey, you're lacking oracle decks. Well, the #1 oracle deck at the time that I had on my wish list that I knew I needed to buy was this deck. And out of all of baron-reid's decks, whether they are tarot or oracle, this is my favorite. I actually bought the enchanted map at the same time. And it took me forever to pick up the enchanted map because once I got this deck in my hands, it was all I wanted to use. I totally neglected the enchanted map. Yes, you could say that I even cheated on the enchanted map with the Wisdom of the Oracle, but this is one of those decks that covers a lot of ground. It tackles so much, and because it has so many meanings for each card, upright and reverse, for, you know, prosperity, spirituality, you know, protection, all this different ways to read each card depending on what area you're trying to highlight. It means that this is a meaty deck. There is tons of substance with this deck. And I kind of learned that watching others use it, but being able to read with it myself is fabulous. Having it in hands and realizing, okay, this deck does live up to my expectations is a wonderful thing. Just like having the light seers and realizing there was all this hype about this deck, and then getting it into my collection and realizing just how versatile it was, it's worth the hype. My personal opinion. You can agree or disagree on that. Okay, another deck that I would automatically replace, and for those of you that follow my deck strength versus weakness series, you will recognize that deck that I just put down on the table as the deck of the month currently. So for September is the Soul Cats Tarot by Lisa Robertson, another deck by Lisa Robertson. Maybe I have a thing for her decks, maybe I don't know. These are the only 2 that I'm aware of that she does, but just like the Mermaid Tarot, this one has a fantastic strength. And I will let you find my deck strength versus weakness series for the month of September for this deck and get that information. And if you want to find that the easy way, just go to my playlist on my channel. I have a tab for deck strength versus weakness, perfect pairs and anti-pairs for each deck of the month. So watch whatever section you deem fitting. But since I have an affinity for cats, and they are from my familiars, having this themed deck just felt right as soon as I realized this was coming out. I mean, I have the Mystical Cats Tarot as well, and that's about the only feline theme decks that I have. However, this is the one that drew me the strongest, and that makes perfect sense given what the strength is and how I utilize it. It's a heavy hitter, just like the Mermaid Tarot, These two decks do coincide. However, they make up for each other what the other one lacks. So if I can't use the Mermaid Tarot for that purpose to play into the strength, this is the deck I grab instead. This is the one that I'm like, okay, so how I want to work this layout, how I want to pair this won't work with the Mermaid Tarot, so I grab the Soul Cats because chances are the Soul Cats will work. That, and as much as there's the Goddess Basset in the Mystical Cats Tarot, because it is a cat themed deck and she is a goddess of cats, I feel that energy more strongly in this deck, and I enjoy that. And if you have both of those decks, please let me know which do you feel that energy the strongest in. For me, that's the Soul Cats. Alright, and we're gonna do an Oracle deck again. It's the only other Oracle deck I have in this list for you to show you. This is actually the Lantern Oracle by, what is it? Yeah, Annalena Marabito. And I actually love this as an Oracle deck simply because it does have the Triple Moon Goddess present. You do have the Maiden, the Mother, the Crone. So you get this kind of evolution of life cycle in the deck, of inexperience, some experience, so there's setbacks, hardships, and wisdom as well. So in place of a Shadow Oracle deck that can do more than just shadow work or more than just healing work, this is one that I would recommend because it covers so much ground. I would like to say it pairs just as much as the Light Seers, however that is not true. But I like this for a deck, and the artwork is pretty. A lot of the artwork is very pretty. So when it comes to, soul evolution, this deck will tell you a lot. It'll point out quite a few things that maybe you're neglecting and ignoring. It'll literally point it out. And as you can see, a lot of these cards are kind of in your face. So for things that aren't obvious, or the things that maybe you're skimming over, this is a deck that will bring your attention to it. For some of you, that means you might feel a little called out in some instances, but that's kind of a part of the work. And because this has the Triple Moon Goddess energy in it, I like the way this deck approaches things. My own personal preference. Alright, now let us switch back over to Tarot. A lot of you will recognize this deck as well. This is the Magical Dogs Tarot by Mickey and Daniel Mueller. Okay. I love this deck. I do. I'd hope if I would have put all the cards in the upright position instead of in the reverse, but this is one of those more colorful decks, a little bit more cheery, but it's a shadow work deck. And just looking at it, you probably wouldn't have guessed that. So it was surprising to me to end up with my first ever, and I think still only canine themed deck in my collection, and discover that it's a shadow work deck. But considering a lot of my other shadow work decks at the time when I acquired this, and thank you to my mother because she gave it to me for, I do believe, Christmas last year, I had a lot of other decks that were shadow work decks, but they were darker decks. So they had a different approach. More darker, more brooding, more tough and in your face. It wasn't chill, relaxed, whereas this deck has a different spin on it. This deck will tell me what I can gain from actually putting the work in, from addressing the issues. So the viewpoint on being prompted and nudged is different with this deck. So instead of telling me, hey, yeah, you screwed up, why didn't you fix this? You need to fix this. Instead of having a face-off with a shadow deck and maybe being, I guess, at odds with it enough in its approach to want to go into denial and reject what it's saying, this one has a different approach, and it's more comfortable. It may be a little slower at things, but it will tell you what the issue is. It'll prompt you to fix it, but it'll also tell you what's waiting on the other side, what is to be gained, whereas others will just point out the problem. Others will tell you the steps along the way how to fix the problem, but this one will actually give you the outcome. What's on the other side of the choice? What's on the other side of the healing? What's going on in the stages? That way you'll actually be prompted and maybe even more motivated, more excited to actually do the work. And to me, that's valuable. It's like somebody coming at you with problems all the time, never ending, nonstop. And then you get that one person that comes at you going, oh yeah, this is a problem, but here's your solution. And it's your solution and a better solution because of X, Y, and Z. That's a better approach to me. So this is my #1 shadow deck for a reason. And I would definitely repurchase this. It is fabulous. Alright, and I have one last deck to show you. And that's the Unfolding Path Tarot. The version I'm showing you is the mass market. I do have the indie version. I actually backed it on Kickstarter. But this just went mass market. This is actually my #1 spirituality deck. I like the way it has the approach. It's a more modern deck, different kind of stylized watercolor theme, but this is very gentle. Whereas my other spirituality deck that I did have, which I do believe was in reaching distance, hold on. My previous deck was actually this one. This is the Heaven and Earth Tarot. And it's a little brute force. It's very in your face. It pulls no punches. It's very direct. And I wasn't quite 100% comfortable with that approach. So despite that being, and I just knocked a crystal over, my bad. Despite learning from that deck, when it came to tarot, I wanted a more softer approach. And this deck right here has mother energy in it. And I like that for a guidance standpoint. It is fantastic for that. And because I finally have this deck as a mass market, you will start seeing this on my channel. For those of you that have been following me for a while, you've probably realized that I've said I've had the Unfolding Path Tarot. You've seen it in my deck collections. You've seen it in my 5 Elements video. You've seen it in other videos I've done, but you've never actually seen me really read with it. You've never seen me bring it out and use it for you guys. And there's a reason for that. But now that I have the mass market, that's going to change. Just FYI. So you're going to start seeing this deck more. But because this is a deck that is more comforting to me for my own spirituality journey, for even utilizing for you guys now because I have the mass market, this is one that, because it has a different approach with that mother energy, I definitely would probably want this one back. It would be another area that I'd be lacking right off the bat, that I would need. Because as much as I would need a boost and direction, that would be the Light Seers. A lot of pretty much everything else would be covered by the Mermaid Tarot and the Soul Cats Tarot. The shadow work would be covered by the Magical Dogs Tarot. Spirituality would be one area I would be lacking. If I had to really kind of hem things down and quickly try to cover all my bases for a tarot collection, if everything went tits up and I had to start from scratch, start over with a deck collection, this would be one of those that I would be willing to repurchase in a hurry and bring it back in to utilize. All right, my lovelies, that is it. Those are the decks that I would definitely out in a hurry go to repurchase in case something horrible happened to all my lovely decks. And since I have a collection that's about 80 decks or so now, I think. I don't know. It's been a while since I counted, and I kind of went overboard for the third quarter of this year when purchasing decks. It'll definitely give the fourth quarter of the year a run for its money. Yeah, and that whole no buying year thing did not happen. But yes, I have a couple that I would definitely want to keep to repurchase. Let me know. Do you agree with some of these decks? Do you disagree with some of these decks? Are they worth it? Is there another deck that you think would work better that you would recommend? And as I said, I limited this to mass market simply because of purchase price and availability. I do have a list of indie decks that I would definitely want, but that's not a guarantee that those would still be available, let alone be cost effective to replace. So I have omitted them from this video. Alright, my lovelies, I'm going to go ahead and leave this here. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know, do you like my decks? Do you hate them? I mean, agree to disagree. Which ones do you think work better? And by all means, feel free to share the video anywhere online, or, you know, tag me in your own version of this if you happen to pick up this tag and haven't covered this subject yet. I'd be interested to watch your video. Anyway, once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.